Darkness. Infinite. Unfathomable. The great void beyond the stars has whispered secrets to humankind for millennia, stories of visitors, of encounters, of connections that defy the limits of our understanding. What if the unknown is not as distant as we think? What if the answers we seek are already among us, hidden in the quiet spaces of everyday life, waiting to be discovered? Tonight, we pull back the veil. Tonight, we step into a story not of war, not of conquest, but of something far more powerful, a bond between two beings from different worlds, forged in the unseen threads of fate itself. A human. An alien. A connection beyond logic. Beyond species. Beyond time. What happens when an ordinary life is touched by the extraordinary? What happens when boundaries blur, when emotions evolve, when the inexplicable becomes reality? Stay with us, and let's unravel the mystery together. A thin sliver of golden sunlight slips through the blinds, casting fragmented beams across the dimly lit room. Dust particles swirl lazily in the air, caught in the quiet, almost sacred moment of dawn. The sheets rustle as Jason Reed stirs, his mind groggily emerging from the depths of sleep. Then, he feels it. A weight, warm, solid, unfamiliar, pressed firmly against his chest. His breath hitches. His drowsy mind struggles to reconcile the sensation with reality. As consciousness sharpens, he dares to glance downward. A figure. Not human. Saria. Her violet-hued skin glows softly in the morning light, an almost ethereal sheen caressing her exposed shoulders. Strange, intricate crest-like patterns pulse faintly along her temples and forehead, their rhythm synchronized with the slow rise and fall of her breathing. Her head rests just below his chin, her cool yet supple form draped effortlessly over him, as if she had always belonged there. Jason's heartbeat pounds in his ears. His mind races. This isn't right. This isn't normal. He barely knows her. He hired her as a housekeeper, not whatever this is. He shifts slightly. That small movement is enough. Saria's large, sapphire eyes flutter open, their unnatural luminescence catching the morning glow. A moment of stillness. A breathless pause. Their gazes lock, an exchange of unfiltered surprise, confusion, and something else Jason can't quite name. Then, in an impossibly fluid motion, she rolls off him, landing gracefully on her feet beside the bed as if she had rehearsed this 1,000 times. Saria, flustered, by the stars, Jason. I deeply apologize. This is entirely my fault. Jason sits up hastily, gripping the sheets around his waist. His voice comes out hoarse, his brain still catching up to his surroundings. Jason, yeah. I'd say an explanation is definitely needed. Saria clasps her hands together, her crest flushing a deeper shade of violet, a detail Jason vaguely registers as a sign of discomfort. Saria, I should have explained sooner. My species, the Atharans, are communal sleepers. We share body heat as a means of energy conservation and emotional stability. It is deeply ingrained in our biology. Jason runs a hand through his tousled brown hair, eyes narrowing slightly. Jason, so, you just saw me sleeping and thought, oh, perfect spot for a nap. Saria, earnest, though slightly mischievous, precisely. And I must say, humans produce a most impressive amount of body heat. It was quite intoxicating. Jason groans, dragging a hand down his face. Jason, this conversation is too weird for me to process before coffee. The scent of something sweet and warm fills the air. A delicate blend of vanilla, butter, and something faintly floral, a subtle undertone Jason can't quite place. He steps into the kitchen, rubbing his temples, only to freeze at the sight before him. Saria moves like a dancer. Her every motion is precise, calculated, yet unnervingly graceful. She flips a pancake into the air, it twists mid-flight, seemingly suspended for a second too long before landing back onto the pan without a sound. She doesn't even glance at it. Instead, she methodically arranges plates and utensils, setting the table with a perfectionist's touch. Jason watches in stunned silence for a moment before clearing his throat. Jason, tell me you didn't break the laws of physics just to make pancakes. Saria's crest ripples, something he now recognizes as amusement. Saria, not at all. I merely optimized the process. Jason takes a cautious step closer, peering at the plate she places in front of him. Golden. Flawless. The kind of pancake perfection one might expect in a gourmet magazine. Jason, eyeing the food, then her, you studied human cuisine? Saria, nodding, extensively. I have analyzed over 3,000 human recipes for breakfast alone. I selected pancakes because your dietary profile suggests a preference for carbohydrates in the morning. Additionally, your caffeine consumption levels indicate a need for sustained energy release. Jason stares at her, fork halfway to his mouth. Jason, wait, you read my dietary profile? Saria, matter-of-factly, naturally. The agency provided thorough documentation. I also reorganized your refrigerator and pantry for efficiency. Jason lowers his fork, blinking. Jason, wait. What? Saria, you had items sorted in an inconsistent manner. I have restructured them by caloric density and expiration dates. It is now 38% more efficient. Jason exhales, pinching the bridge of his nose. Jason, okay. So let me get this straight. First, you use me as a heat source. Then, you somehow outcook every chef on the planet. And now you're telling me you hack my kitchen storage system? Saria tilts her head, her crest shifting with quiet pride. Saria, I fail to see the issue. Your previous organizational method was illogical. Jason laughs, though it's more disbelieving than amused. Jason, Saria, I hired a housekeeper, not an overlord of domestic perfection. Saria smirks, her luminescent blue eyes gleaming with a hint of mischief. Saria, and yet, you are consuming my cooking. Shall I assume that means you approve? Jason chews thoughtfully, sighing in reluctant defeat. Jason, damn it. These are actually amazing. Saria, smiling, excellent. Would you like me to review human dining customs as well? Jason holds up a hand, already feeling a headache forming. Jason, nope. One intergalactic revelation at a time. A soft hum fills the air, the low-frequency vibration of Jason's smart assistant system, subtly monitoring the environment. Outside, rain patters gently against the windows, streaking them with translucent rivers of light. Inside, the atmosphere is thick with tension, though not the kind Jason is accustomed to. He stands near the couch, arms crossed, his expression a blend of exasperation and confusion. Saria, on the other hand, remains entirely composed, her violet-hued skin catching the dim glow of the ceiling lights, casting a soft, iridescent sheen along the intricate ridges of her crest. Jason, okay, let's establish some ground rules. Personal space is a thing here. Saria, curious, a thing? As in an intangible yet deeply revered concept? Jason, exhaling, yes. And one that involves not standing this close to someone unless invited. Saria tilts her head, her large sapphire eyes narrowing slightly, a silent calculation running through her mind. Then, with deliberate intent, she takes half a step closer. Jason, groaning, Saria. Saria, softly, analyzing, fascinating. Your pupils just dilated. Your heart rate elevated. Skin temperature rising. She pauses, observing him with genuine scientific intrigue. Jason shifts uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck. Jason, yeah, well, maybe because you're standing 3 inches away from me. Saria, thoughtful, and yet, you have not stepped back. Silence stretches between them. Jason blinks rapidly, suddenly acutely aware of how hypnotic her presence is. The way her crest faintly pulses, almost mirroring the tempo of his own heartbeat. The soft, nearly imperceptible scent she carries, something akin to midnight air after a storm, tinged with something wholly unfamiliar. Jason, gritting his teeth, that's beside the point. Saria, smirking slightly, odd. So the point is control, then? Establishing verbal dominion over unspoken attraction? Jason's brain short-circuits. He wasn't prepared for this. He'd anticipated cultural misunderstandings. He hadn't anticipated this level of playful dissection of his every move. Jason, it's about boundaries. Saria, nodding slowly, as if humoring him, understood. Humans need artificial distance to maintain emotional equilibrium. She takes a graceful step back, though Jason swears he catches the faintest flicker of amusement in her gaze. Jason, muttering, you are impossible. Saria, and yet, you have not dismissed me. The way she says it isn't a challenge. It's an observation. A fact. a truth Jason isn't quite ready to acknowledge. Darkness drapes the apartment in deep blue shadows, the only light coming from the faint, ambient glow of the cityscape beyond the windows. Jason sits at his desk, fingers idly tapping against the keyboard, but his focus isn't on his work. His focus is on her. Across the room, Saria moves soundlessly, placing a freshly folded blanket over the couch. Her movements are deliberate, but not mechanical. Not just duty. Jason notices it now, these small, seemingly inconsequential actions. The way she always adjusts the temperature in the apartment before he realizes he's cold. The way she clears away his coffee mug when he's too distracted to do it himself. The way she watches him, but never intrusively. Just enough to learn. Jason exhales, pushing back from his desk, watching her as she lingers near the window. The faint reflection of the city lights catch in her sapphire eyes, making them gleam like distant stars. Jason, softly, you're not just studying humans, are you? Saria turns, her crest shifting in a slow, contemplative wave. Saria, clarify. Jason, you're studying me. A pause. A long one. The air between them thickens, charged with something unspoken. Something neither of them are willing to name just yet. Saria takes a step closer, not out of defiance this time, but something else. Something gentler. Saria, quietly, would it be so strange, if I was? Jason's throat tightens. He doesn't answer. He isn't sure how. The soft glow of Jason's desk lamp casts elongated shadows across the room, flickering gently as if uncertain whether to hold the darkness at bay. The air is thick with the scent of old books and faint traces of ozone, the remnants of a recent thunderstorm still lingering beyond the windows. Jason stands frozen near his desk, eyes locked onto the figure before him. Saria holds a neatly folded stack of his clothes, her violet-hued fingers tracing absent-mindedly over the fabric. A look of detached curiosity plays across her sharp features, her crest pulsating in rhythmic waves of deep indigo. Jason, exasperated, rubbing his temples, Saria, we've talked about this. You don't have to handle my clothes. Saria, tilting her head, studying him, but I have observed that you frequently leave them in a state of disarray. Jason, that's called being human. Saria steps closer, her expression betraying neither amusement nor apology. Only deep analysis. Saria, is disorganization a preferred trait among potential mates? Jason chokes on air. He steps back, bumping into his desk. The papers on it rustle, as if reacting to the sudden shift in the room's atmosphere. Jason, I'm sorry, what? Saria sets the clothes down neatly on his chair, her otherworldly gaze unwavering. Saria, I have been conducting a study. You and I exhibit strong compatibility markers. Jason, blinking rapidly, you're studying our compatibility? Saria, nodding, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe, yes. Our interactions suggest a high level of physiological and emotional synchronization. She takes another step forward, her presence pressing against the fragile barrier of Jason's self-control. Jason, muttering, "You make it sound like we're in a lab experiment." Saria, would that be so undesirable? Jason swallows. The air between them thickens, charged with an energy he doesn't quite understand. Saria's gaze is too steady, too knowing. For the first time, Jason realizes she isn't just curious about human behavior. She's curious about him. The sky is painted in violent shades of gold and crimson, the dying light of the sun setting fire to the horizon. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves, carrying with it the scent of earth and something faintly floral, a fragrance Jason doesn't recognize. He steps outside and stops abruptly. Before him, laid out with meticulous precision, is a perfectly arranged picnic. A checkered blanket rests upon the soft grass, its folds untouched by the wind. A wicker basket sits open, revealing an assortment of food's earth dishes expertly prepared, alongside unfamiliar, shimmering Atharan delicacies. And standing at the center of it all, her back to the fading sun, is Saria. The dying light paints her in surreal hues, her violet skin catching the last remnants of gold, her crest shifting in slow waves of deep blue and silver. Jason blinks. Once. Twice. "Jason, you set up a picnic?" Saria turns, her sapphire eyes shimmering with subtle satisfaction. Saria, yes. In many human texts, shared meals in open environments are depicted as a ritual of emotional bonding. Given our compatibility study, I believed it was an appropriate next step. Jason lets out a short, disbelieving laugh, running a hand through his hair. Jason, this is, wow. You really did your research. Saria, nodding, extensively. She gestures toward the food, her movements elegant, deliberate. Saria, I have prepared what humans refer to as finger foods. Though I am still curious as to why consumption is restricted to a single appendage. Jason exhales, shaking his head as he steps closer, taking a seat on the blanket. Jason, it's just an expression. Saria lowers herself beside him with effortless grace, her form barely disturbing the fabric beneath her. Jason picks up a piece of food, what looks like a small tart, and pops it into his mouth, pausing as the unexpected mix of flavors blooms across his tongue. Jason, muttering, amazed, okay, that's actually incredible. Saria's crest pulses with satisfaction, the first genuine sign of emotional reaction Jason has seen from her that wasn't purely scientific. Saria, I anticipated that response. Jason narrows his eyes at her. Jason, you enjoy pushing my buttons, don't you? Saria blinks, as if processing his words. Then, to Jason's absolute shock, she smirks. Saria, I find it stimulating. Jason nearly drops his plate. The apartment is draped in silence, thick and heavy like an unseen mist. Outside, the moon casts pale silver light through the window, stretching long shadows across the walls. The air carries a stillness not empty, but expectant. Jason stands near the edge of the bed, arms crossed, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and curiosity. Across the room, Sariel lingers near the window, her violet skin illuminated by the dim, ghostly glow of the city beyond. Her posture is rigid, her crest shifting in slow, erratic pulses, a sign of inner turmoil. Jason, softly, something's wrong. Saria's fingers twitch slightly, her gaze fixed beyond the glass, as if searching for something in the infinite darkness of the night. Saria, voice quiet, almost hesitant, I have been experiencing changes. Jason steps closer, feeling the shift in the air, subtle but profound. Jason, what kind of changes? She finally turns to face him. Her sapphire eyes are darker than usual, holding something Jason can't quite name. Saria, prolonged proximity has affected me. A pause. The space between them hums with something unspoken, unseen, but undeniably real. Saria, carefully, measured, among my kind, extended physical closeness with another being, particularly one of biological compatibility, triggers an instinctive response. It is known as the Valen bond. Jason's breath catches. The weight of her words settles over him, pressing into his chest like an invisible force. Jason, a bond? Saria, nodding slowly, an attachment. Emotional. Physiological. Permanent. Jason's pulse quickens, but he doesn't move. Jason, you mean? Saria, softly, I am bound to you now, Jason. Her voice is steady, but her crest betrays her, its subtle fluctuations revealing an uncharacteristic vulnerability. Jason feels it, a pull, a connection so deep it defies logic, explanation. He swallows hard, struggling to wrap his mind around what she's saying. Jason, whispering, and what does that mean for you? Saria's gaze drops slightly, as if the answer is heavier than she wants to admit. Saria, it means, if you reject the bond, I will have to leave. Jason stiffens. Saria, continuing, measured but strained, severing it would be painful, but necessary. For you, there would be no consequences. But for me, it would mean exile. An irreversible fracture of something essential within me. Silence falls between them once more, but now it is thick with tension, with choices unmade. The atmosphere is electric. The air itself seems charged, humming with something unseen, something fragile yet unbreakable. Saria stands near the door, her fingers hovering over the handle. The faint glow from the city outside casts a soft light over her, accentuating the delicate etchings along her crest. She looks unnaturally still, as if frozen in time, waiting. Jason stands opposite her, his expression a battle between logic and instinct, fear and understanding. Jason, so that's it? If I say no, you just disappear? Saria exhales, her gaze flickering downward. For the first time, she looks uncertain. Saria, yes. That is the way of my kind. A pause. Jason clenches his fists at his sides, frustration simmering beneath his skin. Jason, that's not fair. Saria, softly, it is simply what is. She moves to open the door, her fingers grazing the surface, but Jason speaks before she can. Jason, I don't want you to go. Saria stills. Slowly, she turns to face him. Her crest shifts in delicate waves, a silent language of hope, apprehension, longing. Saria, you are certain? Jason exhales, running a hand through his hair. His heart pounds in his chest, but it is not panic, it is clarity. Jason, I don't know what this is, or what it means for me, for us. But I know that the thought of you leaving hurts. And that means something. Saria studies him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face, measuring the weight of his words. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, she nods. Saria, soft, reverent, then I will stay. Jason exhales, tension draining from his body, replaced by something warm, unfamiliar, right. For the first time in a long time, he isn't afraid of the unknown. The air is thick with an unseen energy, humming through the dimly lit room. Dozens of small candles flicker, their golden flames dancing in unseen rhythms, casting long, wavering shadows along the walls. The scent of something ancient and unfamiliar lingers, a mix of ozone, crushed petals, and something Jason can't name. Jason stands at the center of a circular marking, an intricate Atheran sigil etched into the floor in luminescent silver dust. The markings seem to shift and ripple, as though alive, responding to some invisible force. Saria stands before him, her crest glowing faintly, her violet skin reflecting the candlelight. Her eyes are deep pools of sapphire, unreadable yet holding something immense, powerful. Saria, softly, the bond is incomplete. It must be strengthened, or it will fade. Jason swallows hard. He can feel the air vibrating, a silent pulse that sinks into his bones, echoing in his mind. Jason, hoarse whisper, what happens if we complete it? Saria steps closer, raising her hands. Her fingers hover inches from his chest, not touching, but Jason feels it anyway, a pull, a presence, something unseen yet tangible. Saria, you will feel what I feel. See what I see. Her voice is low, reverent, almost sacred. Jason's pulse pounds in his ears. Saria's fingers finally press against his chest, and in that instant, the world shatters. A wave of blinding energy erupts through him, his mind unraveling into a sea of emotions, sensations that are not his own. Suddenly, he is not Jason. He is Saria. He feels the weight of her longing, her uncertainty, her hope. The alien sensation of crest ripples in response to emotion, the way her skin tingles under Earth's unfamiliar atmosphere. He feels the aching loneliness of being the only Atheran on this planet, the silent dread that Jason might send her away. Jason gasps, staggering, his body trembling from the sheer force of the experience. Saria catches him, steady, unwavering. Saria, whispering, voice layered, like an echo from within him. Do you see now? Jason's breath comes fast, his body humming with a connection deeper than words. He looks into her glowing sapphire eyes and, for the first time, he understands. He feels her. Jason, softly, in awe, I see you. Their bond, now irrevocable, thrums between them, woven into something deeper than either of them can fully comprehend. The city below stretches out in a sea of glittering lights, pulsing like distant stars. The wind is cool, crisp, carrying the scent of rain that has yet to fall. Jason and Saria stand side by side at the balcony railing, their shoulders barely brushing. The air between them is no longer filled with uncertainty, only quiet understanding. Saria tilts her head up toward the sky, her crest shimmering softly, reflecting the celestial expanse above. Saria, thoughtful, do you think, if I had landed somewhere else, with someone else, this would have happened? Jason watches her, his gaze tracing the gentle rise and fall of her breathing, the way the starlight seems to cling to her. Jason, soft chuckle, no. Because I don't think this was random. Saria turns to him, intrigued. Saria, you believe in fate, then? Jason exhales, looking up at the stars, the vast unknown stretching infinitely before them. The thought should terrify him. It doesn't. Jason, I don't know what I believe. But I know this. He looks at her, his voice quieter now, carrying something gentler, unspoken, but undeniable. Jason, I don't regret a second of it. Saria's crest ripples, a silent language Jason now instinctively understands. Warmth. Gratitude. Affection. She reaches out, hesitates for only a fraction of a second, before her fingers intertwine with his. Saria, softly, neither do I. A quiet moment passes. Just them. The sky. The connection neither of them expected, yet neither of them can deny. Above them, the stars burn on, eternal witnesses to something newly written in the fabric of the universe. Fade out. And the stars above remain unchanged, indifferent to the lives that unfold beneath them. And yet, here on this small, fragile planet, something has shifted. An uncharted path has been forged, a connection that should never have existed yet does. One decision. One bond. One truth that cannot be ignored. The question lingers, was it destiny? A mere accident of the universe? Or something far more deliberate, written in the very fabric of existence? What if this is only the beginning? What if the universe is watching, waiting to see what happens next? Tell us what you believe. Is this a love story? A cosmic coincidence? Or something else entirely? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, the unknown is always closer than it appears.